All right, welcome back to another Back Half Hustle weekly agent success stories. And I'm here with my co-host, Terry Kelly. So, Terry, what are we talking about today?
Today, we're going to talk about being delusional in real estate. That's going to be one of our topics. Being
Delusional. I mean, I'm delusional every day. So tell me
yeah.
more.
Well, and so, you think about being delusional. Imagine that you've been in a room with people and you tell them, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. And they're like, you're crazy. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about not letting other people around you tell you you can't do something or tell you it's not a good idea for you to do something. You want to be delusional. So this week I was at a conference, which is the Shift Pro Mastermind that we're both a part of with Phil Gertis. And in that, he challenged us to a 30 days of being delusional. Think about all the things that you want to achieve like over the next 5 years. What do you want to achieve? And they tell you make goals and make them attainable. Cool. But what about those ones that we make that we feel are attainable but everybody else thinks you're nuts?
Mm,
Right? So
okay.
that's what I think this 30 days of being delusional is really set upon. um, I'll tell the story about 2020. I had just gotten into coaching with Tom Ferry, and I was pumped. I was excited, right? And in January, the brokerage that I was with at the time said, "Hey, uh, who set their goals for the year, right? Who's wrote their business plan for the year?" And of course, I threw up mine because in Tom Ferry we had to have our business plans done before the first of the year, so mine was done. And I walked into that meeting telling him my goal for 2020 was to sell 100 homes, and he told me, "You're nuts." I've been delusional since that day. Um, you can't tell a person that really believes in something that they're going to do that they can't do it. And so I've always said, let me do it. I'm going to do it. This is what I'm going to do. So I always set myself those challenges. Did I sell 100 houses that year? No. COVID happened. Things went nuts. We know. I did sell 89 though. Was I upset that I didn't do 100? No. I never sold 89 homes. I still did something amazing. But that's what I think this next 30 days for me is going to be. Um, I think a lot of agents in today's place are a little concerned because the market is slowed down. It's a little tougher. People are on the edge. Like, what do you do? Well, that's what we need to answer today. What do we do? We're in the fourth quarter. For some people, they're seasonal in their markets, and it's going to be interesting, right?
Yep.
So, what is it that we're doing? You talked, Matt, about getting back to the basics, right?
Yeah, when I listened to Tim Grover's keynote from this past Tom Ferry Summit last week, it really struck a chord where, he mentioned about s as we succeed in life and business, after we keep winning, we always want more, right? Which is not a bad thing, but we're always chasing the new thing to help us get more. And when we're chasing these new shiny objects, these new software, these new lead programs, these new business, whatever it is, right? When we start chasing all this new stuff to help us get to that next level, what happens is our eyes on the foundation are gone. And what happens? Just like in a home, if you don't maintain your foundation, it starts crumbling down, right? It starts shifting, it starts moving, and you're going to end up needing to get foundation work. And so it's kind of the same meaning. It's like we're always chasing the new best thing. And when we put all our focus on that new best thing, everything else crumbles, right? So for me, it kind of makes sense when I go back to all the data and we look at our charts of where our lead sources came from, that we've been successful when we sold 40, 45 homes a year and things like that. It's like I visualize that today and it's like, holy shit. I lost focus on what has kept me in business for the past 11 years because I was focused on trying to grow and focused on the new shiny things to help me get there. That everything else kind of it didn't come crumbling because we still have business from it, but how much more business could I had if I focused on what's gotten me to where we are today, right? And so yeah.
So I'll say that. So I think it was Friday. I was heading out of town and I was scrolling social media, and social media always sends you ads for things you're thinking about, right? And so I sent you guys a message and I said, "Hey, I think I'm going to buy this system because it's going to automate things for me, right? We're in the world of automation and I completely believe in AI, right? But looking further into this program, it was basically a calendar or a task list. And with this task list, I said, okay, that'll make my life simple. I'll know where everybody's at. I'll know all these things. But here's reality. I also sent that to my coach, and my coach said, do you already have those things written out? And I said, no, I got to create them. And he goes, then don't buy the program because you're trying to get something to make your life easier. You're trying to get something to automate, but you don't even have the basics set up. So that's the thing, right? So I need a task list. A task list can be a calendar, it can be a Google spreadsheet, it can be anything that you're currently using. We don't have to have that new shiny app that's going to cost you X amount of dollars. And the other part is funny that I was in the TF Ecosphere yesterday and everyone was talking about buying the new Plod, right? You buy the digital recorder. And last week I was there, I was like, oh my gosh, a situation happened. And I was like, oh, if I would have just had that recorded, I could have proved that it happened. Like it was in that mode, right? And I didn't. And so I went and bought the Plod. Well, you know what the coach said yesterday in that Ecosphere? The
What?
new Apple update does the exact same thing. I could literally go in the voice recorder on my iPhone and record the conversation and have it transcribe it. So here I bought a $150 gadget that now has to have a monthly subscription when it's already in the subscription I pay for every single day.
Yeah.
So we got you're right. Like we can't keep looking for things that make our life easier when we probably already have them. We just need to set them out there, right? So I would simply say if you're currently like doing good business, but it's a little bit of a struggle, step back and evaluate like what systems do I not have in place that I should have in place because I have a little bit of idle time. It's going to help me be more efficient. It's going to help me be more effective. It's going to get me to that place that I want to be. And then start evaluating, like you said, taking it back to the basics of where did it start? What's gotten you through the last 11 years? Because we've had ups and downs in the market in 11 years. We're going to always have them, right? So another thing we talked about last week with the delusional part is having a dangerous level of belief in what you can accomplish. Okay, so I talked to an agent the other day and they're stressed out and they're slow. I wrote 4 new listings today and I've got 2 new contracts coming in. It's different in every single market, right? So a lot of times we talk to other agents in different markets and we're like, oh my gosh, is there something coming that I don't know about? Because that's not affecting me right now. Don't let that happen to you. Let that be your mindset of I'm delusional thinking that I'm just going to keep riding this train because it's working for us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um,
And it does start a lot with what you have to say, right? Like you mentioned, like the confidence part of it, right? Because like another thing that, and I'm gonna keep referring back to Tim Grover because it was just an amazing speech where
always.
his thing is, and what he preaches, is not don't seek motivation because motivation, you're seeking that from somebody else to tell you what to do and how to get motivated. He's
Mm-hmm,
like, instead, you have to learn how to elevate because that's going to have to come from within. And that's the
mm-hmm,
only way you're going to be able to elevate your business, your life, your relationships, or anything. And
yep,
so that kind of struck a chord. And it's like we always used to chase motivation. Oh, I need to be motivated. I'm not motivated today. And it's like, well, no, you need to look from within and see what you're committed to help you elevate, not get motivated.
right,
It goes to what you said, like those words that you're saying to yourself, the confidence that you have to build to, out, you know, turn
well,
everybody else and all the noise off.
you have to believe that everything that you say is already there. It's not something that you're trying to accomplish. It's something you've already accomplished, and that's where the mindset comes from.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
other part is being careful who you allow around you, being careful who you're taking advice from. You have to stop allowing people that aren't delusional to be around you because you want to be around the people that are doing the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
And that's leveling up all the time. If I'm in a room with 4 people and 3 of them are like, yeah, man, rah, 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 they're cheering me on, and that one person isn't, that one person's got to go.
Hmm.
Because if you don't feel a vision, you're not going to suck it away from me because
Yeah.
I feel the vision.
And that's kind of a double-edged sword because we do want the cheerleaders in our life. But we also want the people who tell us what we need to hear, not what we want to hear, right? Because a lot of times you get around these cheerleaders who just cheer you on and, hey, you had a bad day, good job. And it's like, What the fuck? Like they're cheering me on for the stuff that I don't, that, isn't helping me get to that next level. Sometimes we have to, instead of be surrounded by the cheerleaders, we got to be surrounded by the people that tell us what we need to hear, right? That's just like Phil. Phil's not gonna, he's gonna cheer us on, but he's also gonna tell us what we need to hear and call us out on our BS and everything else, right? Because it's what we need to get to that next level, right? And it's like what Tim Grover said again. It's crazy how we went to two different conferences or we listened to two different speeches, right? I was unable to go to Phil's event, so I just listened on the Tim Grover speech, and they kind of resonate where, he mentions we have to get more vitamin in for every day. And I was like, what the hell? I've never even heard of vitamin N. And then he goes further and he's like, vitamin N is telling people no.
Yeah, I love it.
You have to start telling people no. You got to become a ghost, put your head down, do what you know what you need to do in order to come out on the other side even bigger, even more, right? And so, yeah, we have, like you said, surrounding yourself by the cheerleaders is great, but we also need to be surrounded by the people who tell us what we need to hear, not what we want to hear. And then we also have to tell people no. Sorry, no, I can't go to lunch day. Sorry, I can't go golf. Sorry, I can't go do this, right? Because at the end of the day, when you're telling everybody yes, you're telling people no, right? We've heard that across the industry for years in coaching, right? When you tell somebody yes, you're telling what you need to do, the habits or the commitments that you made no. But we always forget about that. And it's always because in our industry, we're saturated by all these new shiny objects, these new platforms, these new lead sources, these new things, blah, 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 that we always forget about all this other stuff, the
Well,
foundation.
and the other thing we talked about was, you're always in a position of, like for us as real estate agents, we're always on, right? Because we're afraid that if we're not on, we're not going to get that next deal. So one thing when we were at this conference where I said I took a call at 9 o'clock at night, don't you know he ripped my head off for that? Because why are you answering the phone at 9 o'clock at night? Because you set that tone for your clients. Like if you're answering that phone, but I've always believed that you meet people where they are, and that's the time that they're available. Nobody else in any industry is available at 9 o'clock at night, except for maybe the doctor that signed up to be on call or something to that degree. But why do we why do we people please everybody?
Yeah. I don't think it's more of people pleasing, right? I think it's what sets us apart from the people who won't do it. Be-
But in the same sense,
But yes, we also
we
don't
can't
need
do it.
to, we
We
also
can't
have
do
to
it.
establish the ground rules for our clients, right? Like I tell my clients all the time, like, hey, and I know, I get it. Sundays, you're off, but I'm not, right? I try to spend with going to church and my family on Sundays, and I tell them, like, hey, if I'm not available, obviously, um, if I'm not available, I'll have somebody that maybe can show you some houses or whatnot, or do an open house because I'm spending time with my family and I'm going to church and whatnot. Only upon myself, where when I go and ask my wife or my kids, do we have anything planned? And if they say no, then I'll go take an appointment if I want to, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I make it very clear in the beginning and tell my clients the expectations that I have that, hey, my kids play baseball. I may not be available at 6 or 7 o'clock at night. I'm definitely
yeah,
not going to be answering the phone at 9 p.m., you know. But if you set those expectations up front with them, then they won't be calling you at 9. But if they
true.
do and it's an emergency or whatever for whatever reason, it's our choice whether to answer it or not. And sometimes those choices do make the difference of why people use us because other people wouldn't do that. But there's a
And
fine line between both.
I'm a belief in real estate. We answer our phone all the time, like no matter what. That's kind of where I'm at. But I do get it that sometimes we don't have the ability, or sometimes we're tired, or whatever. As real estate agents, we don't get that opportunity that much to be real. We have to be working, unless we set that tone of this is who we are, this is our hours that we work, these are the things that we do. But I think that a lot of us, and I'll include myself in that, we still feel like we're living check to check, and that's a scary position. Is if I don't answer my phone, am I going to miss the next deal? But if you build your business correctly, then you're not living check to check, you're not living deal to deal, and you don't suffer the same highs and lows because you have systems and standards in place. And so I think that revolves us all the way back to, yes, live delusional, yes, live abundantly, but make sure you're setting the pace from day one. and don't veer from it.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, right? It's how we built our business. I think a lot of times when we wear the realtor hat or we're a real estate agent hat, yes, we have to answer the phone because we're always chasing the next deal. But if we are building the business correctly and we, have maybe multiple streams of income come in, or if we treat it like a business, then you're right. We don't have to answer that phone at 9 because we're not chasing the next deal, and whatnot. So it's really, how are you thinking? Are you thinking like a business owner in real estate, or are you thinking like a realtor, right? And I think that's the biggest difference of why we're always answering our phone because, oh, we're like, and it's hard because we've been programmed to be realtors or real estate agents, consultants, advisors, and all those other stuff versus having the mindset of thinking like a business owner that uses real estate, right, as a tool.
So I think that part of one thing that you're not taught in school, and you're definitely not taught by your brokerage, is being that business owner. And that the first time I heard that saying, I instantly switched when people say, "What do you do?" I'm a business owner in real estate. I'm not a real estate agent. I'm not a real estate broker. I mean, I am. I'm licensed in multiple states for that, but that's not who I am. I'm building my business in real estate. So it can be any form of real estate that I'm doing. It could also be other businesses that I own. But in building that, I also build a brand. And a lot of companies that you work for, they want you to brand their company, but you're not branding yourself. You're not creating who you are within that brand. And that's what I think a lot of people are missing the opportunity on.
Yeah, and you have to build that brand, and it takes time to build your brand, right? Like literally, I just had another agent here local in the next town, like literally 5 minutes away from me, who just randomly sent me a text and said, "Hey, Mr. Wiley," because he knows how involved I'm in the community, right? He's like, "Hey, do you have an HVAC, recommendation for me?" And I'm like, "Yes, of course. Here you go. Boom." He's like, "I knew you'd know it." Because I built that brand of establishing myself in the community of I don't call myself Mr. Wiley, but that's where I
Thank you.
live, right? And people know they come to me all the time, like, hey, do you have this? Do you know somebody? Do you know this? And it's like, yes, because I built that brand by being involved in the community where I'm the go-to person, for a lot of things, for a lot of people.
And
So,
that's the most important thing. All right. So I want to change topics just for a quick second away from the delusional. I think that agents today try to service anybody and everybody that comes their way. And I think that when agents are creating marketing and things, some do video, some do skits, some do dancing, some are trying to be social media famous, some are not. I think that this season requires you to decide who it is that you're qualified to work with. And so you should ask yourself a couple key questions in trying to figure that out. Now, number one question is, who do I serve? Like, who am I serving? Who am I trying to create content for? Who am I gearing as my ideal avatar client, right? So that's number one. Number two, what problems are they facing? So if I'm gearing towards a buyer, I need to know what problems the buyers are facing. If I'm gearing towards a seller, I need to know what are the hurdles the sellers are facing. I'll say in my market right now, I've pushed a lot more towards selling because I have a ton of listings. And their hurdle is time on market. It's not the value, it's time on market. And then so at that point too, I feel the need to know the buyer's hurdles so that I can solve the seller's hurdles, right? So that's number two. And then the third thing is, who is the best equipped to help the person solve it? Well, if that's what you're branding, you need to be the best person to help them solve it. So what is it that you're doing to highly educate yourself on whatever you're trying to serve?
yeah.
Um, Not always is it education for like a class or coaching or something like that. Sometimes it's just really getting out in the public and saying, "Hey, Mr. Buyer, what challenges are you facing?"
Yeah.
Right? Or get on ChatGPT. What are buyers challenged with in today's market? Just figure that out and then figure out how you can solve it.
Yeah, and that's what your messaging has to be in your marketing that you put out there, right? Because that's what's going to attract the client that you're more qualified for and that you're able to help. Is right. You mentioned, okay, sellers right now, what are they facing? They're facing, time on market. Okay, well, what's the problem? Why is it time on market? Well, let's take a look at the house. Maybe it's the condition of the house compared to the other ones, and that's what's taking it longer. Does your property look better than all the other competition around town because there's a lot more inventory, right? No, it doesn't. So guess what we got to do? We got to solve the condition of the home. So let's put a little, sweat equity. Let's put a little dollars of freshening it up, whatever it is, then put it back on the market and see if that's going to solve the problem to make sure people are more attracted to this house versus that house, right? Same for buyers. Buyers right now, I think, are indecisive because there's so much inventory. So it's like, how do you solve that problem? Well, you got to do a very, very in-depth consultation, right, with them. You got to hone in on what it is, and you got to be that person to remind them of it. And there's a lot of agents who just say yes. Okay, hey, I want to go see this house. Yes, yes. Well, if you revert back to, like I have a client right now that I told him, this is what I do. These are my part of my consultations. Like, let's find out what it is that you need. We're going to stick to this. I'm not going to send you any homes out of that. If you're searching on other portals or whatever, great. Send them to me. I'm going to be that guy that says, why are we looking at this house if we didn't talk about it? Now, if things have changed, great, but communicate that with me and we'll pivot and shift on what we're searching for you. But sometimes these clients, they appreciate it so much because they're like, you know what, Matt, you're right. I hate that driveway after all, now that you mentioned it. I don't want to go look at that house anymore, right? And a lot of people don't do that. But that's the problems that I think buyers are facing. There's so much inventory. They look at all these homes and they forget about what they truly want or need. And us as business owners, as realtors, whatever you want to call yourself, it is our job to hone them back in on their focus on what they truly need because it's going to help you not show 50 homes to one client. And it's going to help them where home one and home 30 don't look the same and they get frustrated and they say, I'm tired, I'm not buying anymore.
Right. And that's important because you do have that buyer fatigue that's happening right now because there is an abundance of inventory. From a seller's perspective, I'll take it back to one thing the sellers are concerned about time on market is pricing. Is it the price? I'll say it's not necessarily the price, but it is, for instance, for me, I have two listings. Both of them are military relocations. They're leaving. They happen to be a higher rank, and so they're allotted a certain amount of money every month from the military to cover their housing expenses. Well, once you get to a certain point, you don't get that much money from everybody, right? So the affordability for the avatar for your particular house is harder to come by because there's not as many people in that market coming in. So they're saying, 350,000 in our area with our taxes and our things are probably somewhere, I'm just going to call it like $2,600 a month. Well, if they're only getting $2,300 a month, they don't want to cover that gap. So it's not the price of the house, it's the affordability for the avatar that's there for your home. And so 60 days on market isn't unheard of. And it's sad because you're anxious and you need to sell and you're ready to go, but it's just not how it is. And unfortunately, you bought the house 2 years ago, so you don't have the ability to reduce because you don't have the equity in the property now. So it's different challenges for different everybody. What this problem may be over here may not be this problem. And I think that's why the market is what it is. And I think that a lot of real estate agents don't study enough of the market. They're more so like, I'm here, I'm going to help you if you want me to help you. And they're helping to the degree that they know how to help. But I think what sets apart the top 1% are those that actually dig a little bit deeper in their niche and understanding how they can truly, truly solve a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And if consumers are watching this, right, you really need to do a great job of interviewing the agents who tell you what you need to hear and who can talk you through this and not just say yes, yes, yes. Because the ones who say yes, 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 they're not going to be able to sell the house because they don't know how to, one, be more professional and talk to you of what you need to hear, but two, of how they don't know the market because they're not studying it. They're not navigating, they're not strategizing. How do we solve this? How do we do that? Right. When it comes, like you mentioned, there's pricing, right? We've been taught where there's aspirational pricing, there's market pricing, then there's event pricing, right? When you're listing a property. But it's also talking about the needs because it's like, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this is what I think your home is worth based off of the data of historical sales, right? But unfortunately, there's 40 other homes in this neighborhood for sale.
Right,
So the only thing that we have to strategize about is how do we get the buyers looking at your house versus all the other 39 and buy yours? Well, yes, unfortunately, because your home is valued at, let's just say 350, but if you want to outwork all these other ones, look at this one. This is the same floor plan, it's the same similar updates, and they're $20,000 less. Why would they come buy your house if they can go buy the same exact house over there for $20,000 less? So if
right.
you must sell to get to your destination in wherever it is that you're going, we have to strategize on the pricing method and how we're going to get it right. And that's why I say a lot of homeowners, a lot of buyers, they need to interview their agents more and see how they talk. Do they have that confidence? Because then if they have that confidence and they're talking to you like I am right now, they know what they're doing probably, right? And you're gonna your experiences and you're gonna appreciate their experience that you have while you're buying that home or selling that home and things like that. So.
Don't just take the yes person, if they're going to be cheaper maybe on what they're charging you, or if they're going to just agree to everything that you say, you want a price higher than it's truly worth, and they're going to do all those things. In all honesty, they're probably doing you more of a disservice than anything, because you're going to be like, you said, no, Mr. Seller, you asked and I agreed, but that doesn't mean that's the truth. Um, Pricing is important. Pricing right from the start, that's important. It still may not dictate days on market. Again, we're in a different world right now where buyers have a lot of choices. Some markets may be in a buyer's market right now. We're in a neutral market right now in our area, and that simply means there's about equality of the houses for sale versus the buyers out there. So we still have a couple months of supply. That doesn't mean a lot to the public, but it does when you see, where you are. And as a buyer's agent, definitely finding out the need and the timelines that the buyer's looking for. Like if they have something they need to sell, or do they just want to look for now, or is their lease up and it's expiring? Those are going to give you your timelines of seriousness in finding that particular property. So I think taking the time to actually have true buyer consultations, figuring out your brand and who you're there to service so that you can market those people and really set up a game plan. Like, this is what I do day 1 through day 30 to helping this person in this niche find it is what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
That's what I think we're missing right now.
Yep, definitely. All right, so Terry, what are we talking about next week? I honestly think we need to start planning for 2026. I don't know about you,
I
right? I
agree.
think this conversation started happening now in September because we got to build these habits of what our plan is for and carry that momentum. So when 2026 is here, we're not figuring out, well, what are we doing? What is our goals? Where are we going? What's the plan? So I think maybe next week we talk about a 2026 strategy business plan that you can carry for the remainder of 2025 to build that momentum into 2026.
Okay. And then let's also add one system that you utilize and how you utilize it.
Sounds good. All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for joining us. If you have questions, ask them in the comments. Reach out to us. We're happy to help. Be sure to like, subscribe, and send this to a fellow agent who you think will gain value from it. Till
Okay.
then, see y'all later.
Bye, guys.